What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we are giving you a state of the market and stock picks for May 13th, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this volatile market that we are currently in. So let's get straight into state of the market. We all know, if you haven't followed me by now, if you all know, typically, the Fed is guiding the market in direction right now. We're hearing a lot of different things about the next two meetings being 50-point basis moves, and then we also hearing from Fed Bostic about a 75-point basis move that would essentially crush the market. But one thing I've also been stating is that coming into this year, we had that major correction essentially since January to February. And that essentially kind of established a 50-point basis move coming in. And then there was a lot of chatter about a 75-point basis move that essentially really sunk us. But that 50-point basis move, every time it was reiterated through the meetings, we would pop if it was 50-point basis move or lower. So we saw that in that first meeting. We only got 25. The market popped. This last meeting we just had, 50-point basis move was what was expected. We popped one day, even though we sold a day later. But then coming into, we have another meeting again coming in June, potentially 50-point basis move. But Bostic has been saying 75. A lot of people are reiterating and bouncing back and forth between 50 and 75. So I think ultimately the market took it upon itself, like it did in the beginning of the year, to try to correct to a 75-point basis move. Now, I'm not talking about the full basis moves. I think the market takes it as, okay, well, this is 25%, we'll correct. Whatever that is. I think that initial move may have been possibly 10%, and then every 25-point basis move, I think the market's been moving like 5%. I'm talking about general index here. So in my mind right now, I think we were going for 20, and today we hit 20. Now the true, let's actually get actually show and see where we hit from the low point of today, which 38.58. So we came really close. I think actually at one point it did hit. It came really close to a 20% today. Now the true question is, if my theory holds up, I think we still have a little bit of play here. I think we could potentially go down to 377. That would put us at a 21.52% correction on the year. It's still in the cards. That's something still very much in the cards, I think, for my theory to essentially come to fruition about this being the reversal point. Now, if it sells beyond that point, I think there's just more problems that would cause us to keep selling. You start getting mass panic because of this sell-off, this thing will really start tumbling down. But like I've said, for the most part, these falls have been pretty controlled till we started hitting here. Then people started getting a little fearsome, especially coming into today, because Apple broke support. And that was a safe haven. It broke a major support, and it is failing. So big thing to watch here is is this range, right? We could still potentially head down here. We do have very strong support around that 3,600. So that is something to keep in mind. If all else fails and it hits that, I think that would be the ultimate reversal right there. Again, if it breaks that, I think we have bigger financial infrastructure issues, and at that point it's essentially a free fall after that. That's beyond panic at that point, which I don't think we're going to get. I think we can come close to this before we reverse. So right now I think we're in that reversal zone. Again, it's not 100%. This is not financial advice, but I think we are very close. If not, we hit it today. We hit around that 20%. So we have to see if that theory is correct. Again, we could have a couple more days of selling before this thing turns around, or continues to start chopping around until it heads back up, going into the Fed. And again, I think if we get any kind of positive news, I think this would really help the market start bouncing up. But today was the first time I really saw some strength in the market. There was actually a decent bounce today, and so that was a positive sign. Again, I think now we've kind of priced in a 75-point basis move. So if they come in anything lower than that on this next meeting, I think that would make the market to go parabolic and run for a bit. And I'm not saying go back to all-time highs. We could start heading back to all-time highs, but I think we can get a pretty parabolic move. So like some of these we've seen where we get like 4 or 5 days of just straight up. This, we had about a week and a half or so just straight up like that. I think that's what we're going to get out of this once we get that 75-point basis move. But ultimately, you have to understand I'm still very short side biased because that's what the trend is. So you have to be careful because that is ultimately what the trend is. If you're going in this investment mindset, so you're looking 5 to 10 years anyway. And again, not financial advice, but if that's what you're looking, 5, 10 year window investment, I think you should be starting to pick stuff up on this way down. And then dollar cost average, obviously, and then until we start getting back up, just nibble here and there. Again, I think you should go with industry leaders because of the fact that a lot of these mid cap, small cap stocks, were inflated going into this year. So like your Palantir that was up at $30 an hour, don't expect that to happen for a while. There's a lot of stocks, NIO, way overinflated from where it should have been. Tesla's at 728, and that is like one of the best companies on the block, right? And it's down to 728. So that's stating a lot. So, and they have, they're very proven. A lot of these companies aren't proven, and so they're getting slammed down hard because of that fact. So just be mindful of that going forward. But I think we're at any day, I think we could reverse this thing, start hitting back up. We haven't gone all the way back and retested that 20 monthly, which is sitting at the 4140 mark. Again, once we could potentially start running tomorrow and try to hit that. I think if we do get a parabolic move, there might be kind of a short covering point to where this thing will push up and try to retest that. Once the shorts cover, I think they're going to get bombarded here, and you're going to get one really bad rejection off of here. And again, I think that could ultimately be the dip. Just again, as long as it holds. I mean, it could dip down to 3,600. It could potentially dip down there, but I think this is mass panic and start breaking 3,600, which I don't think we're going to do. I think we're at that reversal point here. We're going to get a rejection off it. The market will gather itself, and then it'll start pushing up, in my opinion. So we'll have to see what happens from that point. But that's currently what we're dealing with. Bitcoin, this thing still holding in there. It's still holding. It dipped all the way down to 25, right? But this is something I've talked about. You have to pay attention, especially when you're looking at monthly. These things wick. This is why higher time frames really help. This thing could wick all the way back up to 34. So I said, as long as we held at 32 and looking at the monthly, I mean, this thing has still got 2 more weeks to pull back up. And I think now that we priced in the 75-point basis move, I think this thing can pull all the way back into this range. And then, the Fed can say whatever. They can come in at 50 points or 25 points. And start to taper, and I think the market would probably actually start rocketing off that, and Bitcoin would start falling along. Again, Bitcoin's been running almost in parallel with the market, so you have to keep that in mind as well. But that's what I have for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, again, I think this will pull back up. Give this another week, and I think we'll be back above the 34, if not by tomorrow. Or sooner before the end of next week, but I think this will be back up by then. Again, I could be wrong. It could always flip and head down. Again, not financial advice. This is why I do daily updates, because it can change. Something can change the market very quickly, and this thing could decide to flush all the way back down to potentially 10K. But just be aware of that. It really just depends on how this monthly candle closes, and you still got a while before that happens. So that is Bitcoin. Now going into tomorrow, Tesla, again, like I said, you want to be going with industry leaders going in here. This is trying to pull back. If it can reclaim the 750 going into next week, I think it would be a positive sentiment. It could potentially start to head back up, especially if Tesla is on the ball. So kind of watching those key levels tomorrow and seeing if it can reclaim that. Ultimately, we want some of the stuff to reclaim because you don't want the weekly. You don't want the weeklies to start giving up some of this ground. So it really needs to get back over that 763 actually. If it can get back over that tomorrow. Currently, this is one of the bases and it's barely holding. So again, we don't want to open up tomorrow and this thing just flush and break straight through this. And then you're going to get a lot of selling straight down to 500 at that point. And if Tesla's going to 500, the rest of the market's going with it. So Tesla is a big one to watch. Apple, big one to watch. It broke support. It actually held this support, this 380, the 138, excuse me, very well. So that's something to keep in mind. As long as it doesn't break this, if it does break that, you could really start to get some heavy selling in there. And again, if Apple and Tesla are headed down, a lot of these other stocks are going to take even worse beatings than they already have. And they're also the first ones to reverse. So just be mindful of that. If we're starting to come to the point where we're going to reverse in the market, these ones will be the first ones to flip and start running. So and considering Apple just broke yesterday, which is kind of crazy, to be honest, the way this is kind of set up, actually, let me straighten this out. We are looking at the weekly. Let's get this. So this is something I kind of just saw here as I'm talking to you guys here. We did have a break here. And this is a weekly. So I think this is what's going to happen. Potentially, we could start pulling up a little bit. Tomorrow could be a little pull, and next week we'd actually get a nice pop, but it would be a retest. Like I've been talking about, even on the index, I just showed you the index needs a retest. Next week could be our short rally to retest these old trend lines. If that's the case, you're going to get a hard rejection off that. Now, it's not saying that it's going to reject and then just fail. It can, but you will get or initial hard rejection off of it, and then it will depend off that initial hard rejection. Does it keep going or does it go down? And then we'll get more information on how the general market sentiment is after a retest and see where that goes from there. So Apple is the same way. Again, not reassuring with this massive flush like this in Apple. It doesn't really help the market in general because that's one of the, again, safe havens for everybody to go to. Google is really struggling here and getting pinched really tight here. This is one to really be watching. It dipped down to 21.96. It didn't want to sell. This is the big thing too. Is big indicators here. Is Google didn't want to sell. It's tried to sell today, and then it got picked right back up very quickly, right back to the 22.61. If this thing starts to rip, this thing can rip all the way back to 25.34. Currently from where it's at, yeah, you do have some resistance here at the 23.96. But we are looking at the weekly here, and I think if we start getting gas on the weekly, potentially, I think we get potential push up. Maybe it'll be a full reversal, maybe not. If it's not a full reversal, you'll still get a really nice push. Possibly next week is kind of what I'm looking at. I think this week, with all the news and everything going on from last week, that we had full digestion, and then the 75-point basis moves, we hit 20%. I think everything's kind of lining up that way, that we're going to have a nice parabolic move. And then we'll determine if it's going to be the full reversal or not from that point. Again, you'll get an initial hard rejection. So that initial hard rejection might be another day or two of selling, and then potentially head up, or we might chop around waiting for Fed, and then that will determine if we go up or down from that point. Could also happen. Amazon, same thing. I don't really trust Amazon at these levels because it's one of the first ones to sell. When Amazons are selling heavy, it just sells, and it sells a lot. So you have to be really careful with Amazon. But could potentially another big one. Shop, another big one. This thing actually bounced nicely off the 200, but now it broke and is retesting the 200. 200 daily, I believe, is actually... Let me look at this. Let me throw the studies back on here. Sorry about that. I think there was a weekly. It wasn't the weekly. I think it might have been monthly. Yeah, you had the monthly support. So this thing had a really nice bounce off the monthly support. The key is you don't want a shop breaking below 300. Shop break below 300. This thing is getting crushed down to 200 again. Back when I remember trading it a long time back, it was around 200 and dropping below 200. So now it's could potentially head way back down that way. So those are the kind of some of the ones I'm watching going into tomorrow. There's no other real ones I'm watching. I've been kind of keeping with industry leaders or playing the index because those are the first ones to move. Don't really play a lot of value potentials tomorrow. Actually, it was a huge parabolic move in GME and in AMC had a massive move. This could be a good one tomorrow to watch to see if it gets another attempt to break another short squeeze push tomorrow, especially if the market tries to push. This thing could really start ripping. You definitely want to watch this 112 mark here. It hits that. It tried to hit it and kind of got rejected. But if it does hit it and hold, could potentially break out, and it gets back over this 200 on the hourly. So you're looking at roughly around the 113 mark. This thing can really start ripping back up. So you could get a possibly good 2-3 day runner here for the retest. And then at that point, you're going to get the rejection for possibly a day or two. And then we'll determine if we're going up or down at that point. So we'll have more idea with the market sentiment in a couple days as opposed to where we're at now. So again, these ones, again, a lot of value in today. So you definitely want to be watching that and seeing where that goes. But potential ones, again, if you're not a seasoned veteran in the markets, these ones I definitely be careful because they really should not be at these PEs right now because they don't have any kind of their mem stocks, and it's just all pure just momentum movement. There's nothing else guiding it. There's no forward PE. They aren't doing anything outstanding out there, changing the world in any way, shape, or form. So these things should not be at these $70 marks anyway. So being said, you definitely have to be careful with these because they could go down to zero very quickly. And we've seen that these are some of the first ones to sell off very quick when the market does turn. But ones to keep on the radar tomorrow, and also Airbnb, I think could potentially be a good one as well. It's basing nicely as long as it can break over the 121 tomorrow. It can get a nice rip up to 137. Again, it's good to see consolidation and stuff in value in tech. We're so on values, some of it's starting to consolidate. So this being one of the leaders in value, I might actually pick up some shares in this moving forward, going into the next coming days, because I think we'll have that parabolic move. So I grab some Airbnb at 116 possibly tomorrow if it's still sitting there. Again, this could pre-market could be completely different. This thing can gap down overnight, and then the whole setup I have could change. So nonetheless, go ahead and drop a like button. Until next time, I will see you guys later.